this election rigged right from the beginning. They used the pandemic, sometimes referred to as the China virus, where it originated, as an excuse to mail out tens of millions of ballots, which ultimately led to a big part of the fraud, a fraud that the whole world is watching. And there is no one happier right now than China. So we're not looking to show you 25 faulty or fraudulent votes, which don't mean anything because it doesn't overturn the state, or 50 or 100. We're showing you hundreds of thousands, far more than we need, far more than the margin, far more than the law requires. We can show many times what is necessary to win the state. The media knows this, but they don't want to report it. In fact, they outright refuse, even cover it, because they know the result if they do. Even what I'm saying now will be demeaned and disparaged, but that's okay. I just keep on going forward because I'm representing 74 million people, and in fact, I'm also representing all of the people that didn't vote for me. The mail-in voting scam is the latest part of their 4-year effort to overturn the results of the 2016 election, and it's been like living in hell. Our opponents have proven many times, again and again, that they will say and do anything to get back into power. The corrupt forces who are registering dead voters and stuffing ballot boxes are the same people who have perpetrated one phony and fraudulent hoax after another. You've been watching it now for 4 years. These entrenched interests oppose our movement because we put America first. They don't put America first. And we're returning power to you, the American people. They don't want America first. They only want power for themselves. They want to make money. That's why they don't want me as your president. I've been investigated from soon after I announced I was running for president, when I immediately went to #1 in the Republican primary polls. The investigations never stopped. They went on for 4 years. And I won them all. I beat them all. Russia, Russia, Russia. The impeachment hoax, and so much more. Robert Mueller spent $48 million of taxpayer money investigating me for 2.5 years, issued over 2,800 subpoenas, executed nearly 500 search warrants, issued 230 orders for communications records, and conducted 500 witness interviews, all looking to take me down. There was no collusion in the end, none whatsoever. Senator Marco Rubio, the head of the Senate Intelligence Committee, stated the committee found no evidence that then-candidate Donald Trump or his campaign colluded with the Russian government. And I thank Senator Rubio for that statement. Now I hear that these same people that failed to get me in Washington have sent every piece of information to New York so that they can try to get me there. It's all been gone over and over again. For $48 million, you go through tax returns, you go through everything. The New York Attorney General, who recently ran for office, campaigned without knowing me, stating, "We will join with law enforcement and other attorneys general across this nation in removing this president from office." I never met her. It's important that everybody understand, she said, that the days of Donald Trump are coming to an end. And all it's been is a big investigation in Washington.
From the very beginning, throughout December, it was spreading. And we now know it was spreading human to human. But the official line of the Chinese government was that this was all related to an animal market. And once they closed the market...
And if you said that back in March, and back in April, and back in May, Twitter, Facebook, Google will all block you. And then when medical doctors and hospital heads and top virologists that head up universities came out and said, it does have gain of function, it is spread human to human, but it only kills you if you're debilitated and don't have the right vitamins and minerals, they would then censor them as well. And now all these different videos of legislative testimony in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, in Arizona, and other areas, powerful eyewitnesses from the Postal Service and UPS and whistleblowers that got video of the fraud and the thumb drives being illegally loaded with info and taken away and then brought back. When one of those videos goes up and gets 500,000 views in a couple hours, they don't just put a label saying it's disputed. They take down legislative, sworn under oath testimony. This isn't just censorship. This is an electronic straitjacket to push the gaslighting that Joe Biden won. But finally, President Trump, yesterday afternoon, in that 49-minute press conference that we basically aired the whole thing on the War Room, we aired large excerpts of it on Election Countdown. People kept asking me, well, why do you have a show called Election Countdown that you say is going to go through into February? Because we knew this was going to be disputed. The Democrats were never going to concede. And so they just announced Biden the winner with fraud. Plan A was to have a huge landslide victory through fraud. That didn't work because Trump's landslide was so big. So they froze the polls, froze the counting, said they did, really kept it going, and brought in some cases, thousands of votes without even one Trump vote in them. They're that lazy. They don't care. They think they've got media cover to engage in whatever crime they want. And now they're calling it the American virus. And if you call it the Chinese virus, you get restricted on the line as well. Big tech are anti-American criminals, merging with Big Pharma to carry out this medical technocracy dictatorship takeover. We must resist it. We are back live. We are broadcasting worldwide. Coming up, next segment, I'm going to show you the inventor of the PCR test coming out and saying it is not accurate to test for viruses. That is not what it's designed to do. And you can turn it up to any point you want to find whatever it is you claim you're looking for. PCR test in the crosshairs, next segment. Because they're all over the news saying we're testing more Americans. Now they've tested something like 60 million Americans. And oh my gosh, now 2,777 people died yesterday, they're saying, from COVID or COVID-related things, which means you give them a test that the German courts have now ruled are 96% false positive. But if the hospitals test you and you say you're positive, if it says you're positive, they get an additional, $13,000 just to admit you. If they intubate you, another $39,000. And then if you die, even more money. That's why it's only certain hospitals where you have most of the death, because they are killing people that they see as useless eaters, mainly homeless. And in the few promo videos that are out there of the supposed full hospitals that we know are empty, they'll have a few homeless in there that they can dress up and wear their little spacesuits with and try to scare everybody. But I've talked to the top medical doctors. You've seen all the interviews. You've seen all the evidence. And I talked to the owner of one of the big genetic engineering companies. Just happened to run into him. Not going to say how or where, because after he talked to me, his lawyers found out he talked to me. And he said it was, don't repeat this is for me, but you can tell people this. And his lawyers found out about it, and I got calls within an hour of talking to that guy. Just saying, please do not say his name. Please do not say it, please. But he's just like one of these rich billionaire scientists, tell you what he really thinks. Fauci's a total fraud. Gates is a fraud. He works with them. His company does real genetically engineered nanotech with anti-cancer antibodies for the colon, all sorts of stuff. And he said, it's absolutely like you say, Jones. They turned the PCR test up so high that everybody supposedly has COVID when you don't. If you've ever had a coronavirus in the last decade, it shows it, or a flu virus. But he said, plus the corona vaccine is a fraud because your body doesn't even see COVID-19 as enough of a threat to keep an immunity going. Most people won't even get antibodies with it. And that's what's come out in other big studies, is you don't keep the immunity because your body doesn't even see it as a threat. So they have to add all this other adjuvants into the shots to try to make your body see it as a threat to have a response. And now they're worried that every time you get a regular cold, you could die of an autoimmune response. So what they're giving you is an allergic reaction to the regular cold virus that's the most common. So instead of you beating it 99% of the time, you're going to get deathly ill and have an autoimmune response, and they're going to call it COVID-19, when what really killed almost everybody during the Spanish flu, 50 million it's estimated, was the autoimmune response. The autoimmune response. And of course, masks were all the rage then, and they became incubators for bacterial pneumonia, and they estimate, Dr. Fauci wrote a paper on this in 2007, that most of the deaths were caused by bacterial pneumonia. So this is what the real medical science is saying, and this is what they're trying to suppress. And I've got a lot of news on that coming up. And then I'm going to hit Trump's incredible speech yesterday. We've got the highlights here. That's exactly what he needs to be doing. With 49 days left, he did it. Now he's got 48 days. Now he must expose communist China being behind Fauci, being behind Gates, being behind Biden. Take the gloves off. Only the president has a big enough bully pulpit to break through the electronic Berlin Wall and savage the globalist. Only directly from the Resolute desk in the Oval Office, talking directly to the American people, leveling with us that this is a foreign takeover, we have a shot. The good news is you hear Lin Wood saying it's a communist Chinese takeover, and the Democrats are clients of him. He used to be a Democrat. He understands it. Tucker Carlson says the coronavirus pandemic is a global fraud perpetrated by China, abetted by the powerful. Totally true. The real talking point that I've been hammering like the devil is now becoming the dominant point, and that's victory. To win a war, you got to admit you're in a war. You got to know who the enemy is. You got to know what their goals are. And the globalists are incredibly weak right now. They have a doddering, mindless puppet president that they believe they're going to be able to install fraudulently. They have all their blue cities and blue states collapsing. They have an ideology that's total fraud and total evil and couldn't be sold to anybody that had half a brain. And so we have to simply say, hey, you tried to say Trump wasn't legitimate, tried to stop him from being inaugurated with no proof saying he was a Russian. All we have is proof with Joe Biden. Trump, somebody calls in, hey, he's got a dead woman in his trunk. This is an allegory, an analogy. Cops pull him over, no dead woman, no blood, no nothing. No woman's been announced missing. Trump's got an alibi where he just was. Joe Biden, they call in, hey, Joe Biden's driving an 18-wheeler full of dead bodies. Cops pull him over, full of dead bodies. He's got blood all over him, scratches on his face, and they open up a bag, and it's a bunch of memory sticks of him videotaping him torturing women to death. I mean, that's the level of open and shut. You have the dead bodies. You have the serial killer killing them. You have everything. I mean, it's ridiculous. And here's the danger, though. With someone as incredibly compromised as this, with somebody as out of control controlled like this, they are going to know that Biden's weak and scared and will do whatever the globalists, the Chi-Coms tell him. And the media has already been trained to cover up the laptop and Hunter Biden and Burisma and the Moscow mayor paying him off $3.5 million. So now all they're going to do is get 10 times worse. And of course, try to bring in such a depression that their people just need food. And so when you're starving, you'll do what you're told a lot of times, if you don't know who did it to you. And that's why the left's declaring martial law all over the blue cities and states. Same thing in Europe, same thing in Australia. This is a UN world government plan with the left coming down on us with both feet to drive us into